This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Good evening, Philippines, and good day, world. I'm Franco Baranda. It's Friday, the 11th day of August, and you're watching Newsline World. We're here to bring you the top stories we've gathered from all over the globe. First, the World Health Organization designates coronavirus variant Eris as variant of interest as cases across the world continues to increase. In Africa, Niger's military junta threatened to kill ousted President Mohamed Bazoum as West African leaders prepare for military intervention. Is the Putin and Zelenskyy negotiations now off table? We'll find out more about what Ukraine's foreign minister said about this later on. In Hawaii, the paradise island of Maui saw an increase of deaths after it was burned to the ground due to wildfires fueled by a powerful hurricane. And the United States suicide numbers reached an all-time high in 2022, as said by the CDC. These and more for tonight's edition of Newsline World. In a recent announcement, the World Health Organization, or WHO, has categorized a novel strain of the COVID-19 virus named Eris, or EG5, as a variant of interest. This decision comes as Eris gains global prevalence, affecting several countries including the UK, China, and the US. Jane Cognita has the details.
Although the WHO has labeled Eris as a variant of interest, it emphasized that the strain does not pose a significant threat at a global level. According to the available evidence, the public health risk associated with Eris is currently deemed low. Despite its increased prevalence and characteristics such as growth advantage and potential immune escape properties, there have been no reported changes in disease severity linked to this variant. Eris, also referred to as EG.5, shares a lineage with an Omicron subvariant known as XBB.1.9.2. The genetic makeup of EG.5 differs slightly from previous subvariants, which might contribute to its heightened ability to infect individuals and evade immunity. This could potentially explain its higher transmissibility compared to other variants. Experts have commented on the evolving situation. Christina Pagel, a professor of operational research at University College London, highlighted that while Eris is becoming more prevalent and appears to possess enhanced immune evasion capabilities, there is no substantial evidence indicating that it leads to more severe illness. The focus, therefore, remains on monitoring the situation closely. Recent data from the UK Health Security Agency suggested that Eris, particularly its subvariant EG5.1, accounts for approximately 15% of sequenced COVID-19 cases in England. Dr. Mira Chan, Deputy Director of UK Health Security Agency, underscored the importance of vaccination as the primary defense against potential future waves of COVID-19. Vaccination remains crucial, and individuals are encouraged to receive all eligible doses promptly. While symptoms of Eris infection can vary among individuals, most affected individuals experience mild manifestations. These commonly include a dry cough, headaches, runny nose, sneezing, sore throat, and fatigue. In some cases, difficulty in breathing may also occur. Notably, the milder symptomatology could be attributed to a higher level of immunity within the population, which might mitigate the severity of infections. Reporting, this has been Jane Cognita, SMNI News.
Japan's former prime minister was in Taiwan for a visit. However, this move was criticized by many experts after he met with the Taiwan president. Kent Hashimoto files this report.
International relations experts of China strongly condemned former Japanese Prime Minister Taro Aso's visitation to Taiwan, warning of Tokyo's potential arms expansion aimed at Beijing. Taro Aso, former Prime Minister and the current Vice President of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP in Japan, visited Taiwan from Monday to Tuesday. He also met with Tsai Ing-wen, William Lai, and others. He also gave speech during his stay. He also talked about what he called as threat from Chinese mainland. He also called for a posture of strong deterrence and a readiness to fight. However, his words received criticism from Chinese experts.
中日关系当中最重要的一个政治上的共识，就是1972年中日共同达成的恢复邦交的联合声明。日本明确表示是充分理解和尊重中国有关台湾是中国领土不可分割的一部分的立场。麻生的言行显然是严重损害了中日关系当中双方达成的上述最重要的共识。我觉得呢，麻生太郎这次的做法主要是有政治上的意图。第一个呢是他是要迎合美国的一些议员在台湾问题上煽风点火。第二个呢，他虽然是前首相，但是他仍然是自民党的副总裁，所以他也是企图在日本国内煽动起新的一股在台湾问题上挑动中日对立的这么样的潮流。但是我想呢，他这是认错了形势哈，他认错了中国统一的大势，他也认错了地区和平的大势。
Japan once again brought up what seemed to be threats made by China to their diplomatic blue book, a yearly report regarding the country's foreign policy that is usually released in April. Liu Jiangyong, a professor from Tsinghua University, urged for vigilance on Japan's ambition to strengthen its military presence by exacerbating tensions and fueling escalations in the region.
2023年版的日本外交蓝皮书对中国大陆的定位是前所未有的最大战略挑战，同时对台湾的定位呢，把台湾说成是日本极其重要的伙伴和重要的朋友。今年是开罗宣言发布80周年，在这样一个年份，我们要特别的注意日本对战后国际法、国际秩序的颠覆。今年是中日和平友好条约45周年，我们更要警觉日本是否会根本颠覆合约精神，以中国为对象进行扩军备战。
Last Tuesday, a spokesperson from the Chinese Foreign Ministry said that Beijing has made serious remarks to Tokyo. Beijing also said it strongly condemns the former Japanese Prime Minister's visit to Taiwan. 以上日本からの下本健太でした。SMNI News, Japan.
Australia's unpopulated land and open spaces are attracting significant attention from Army defense chiefs in the United States as they consider these territories a potential testing ground for their advanced weapons, including missiles. Sheena Salem reports.
A top Pentagon official said that Australia's vast territory makes it an excellent choice as future testing ground for advanced hypersonic and long-range precision weapons under the AUKUS Pact. AUKUS, the acronym for the Trilateral Security Pact between Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States, saw Canberra's role extending beyond financial contributions. The pact, which has the main objective of supplying Australia with nuclear-powered submarines, has evolved to address the growing influence of China in the Asia-Pacific region. U.S. Secretary of the Army, Christine Wormuth, said it has always been a challenge for the United States to find open spaces to test its weapons, and Australia obviously has something unique to offer on the table when it comes to fulfilling this challenging role. Signed in late 2021, the AUKUS deal serves as a strategic response to counter China's increasing dominance in the Asia-Pacific region. Besides nuclear-powered submarines, the deal has broadened its scope to include advanced technologies such as long-range precision firing, artificial intelligence, and hypersonic weapons. If the plan succeeds, U.S. will follow the United Kingdom's footsteps in using Australia as a future firing range, wherein British troops conducted 12 nuclear weapons tests in Australia between 1952 and 1958. At present, Russia and China are winning the hypersonic arms race, while the U.S. considers Beijing the world leader in hypersonic technology. China has accused the U.S. of using the AUKUS deal to trigger confrontation with Beijing. Chinese officials called the military pact a path of error and danger that will only fuel the arms race and nuclear proliferation. Reporting from New South Wales, this is Sheila Salim, SMNI News, Australia.
In Cuba, a memorial was built as a reminder of U.S. sabotage operations that has been exposed to the world. Vigan has the story.
A memorial located in Cuba's capital city of Havana sheds light on the anti-Cuba actions, including destructive operations and economic blockades taken by the U.S. in the past decades, and serves as an education site to remind the youth of Cuban history. The Cuban Denunciation Memorial showcases declassified documents and testimonies. It also has exhibits revealing U.S. interference in Cuba. It features 6 sections on the Central Intelligence Agency's activities, media wars, terrorism, immigration manipulations, economic warfare, and the strength of the Cuban people. The memorial highlighted declassified CIA documents outlining covert operations to undermine the Cuban government, including Operation Mongoose, approved by the Kennedy administration, that aimed to plot the assassination of the Cuban leaders.
Tiene como objetivo denunciar la política hostil y agresiva del gobierno de los Estados Unidos contra el pueblo cubano. De alguna manera, cuando avanzas en todo el recorrido, desde que comienza, vas a ver cómo se muestran pruebas contundentes, no solo por las autoridades cubanas, sino también que a partir de las desclasificaciones de todos esos documentos, de esos documentos secretos que forman parte de lo que es la subversión política e ideológica del gobierno de los Estados Unidos contra Cuba. A la par que mostramos todo el proceso de hostilidad y de genocidio del gobierno de los Estados Unidos, mostramos también la capacidad de resistencia que tiene el pueblo cubano.
The exhibition also showcases the economic struggles faced by Cuba due to the blockade imposed by the U.S. The limited resources of Cuba have been further devastated by the American blockade policy, resulting to a severe blow at Cuba's economic development. Cuban official statistics show that since 1962, the U.S. blockade has resulted in cumulative losses exceeding $154.2 billion, causing significant economic damage and a grave humanitarian crisis in Cuba. However, the U.S. remains indifferent despite the 30 resolutions passed by the United Nations General Assembly urging Washington to end the said blockades.
El gobierno de los Estados Unidos, todas las administraciones de los Estados Unidos, realmente dentro de su política está precisamente como instrumento ese terrorismo de Estado. De hecho, tiene a Cuba como uno en el listado de los países terroristas. Cuando ellos declararon la guerra contra el terrorismo, vamos a ver que en la práctica lo que hicieron fue desarrollar precisamente la guerra. El mundo no puede continuar viviendo sobre la base de la guerra. Volver atrás realmente no podemos, y es uno de los objetivos y misiones del museo, hacer que los jóvenes conozcan la historia para no volver atrás.
Reporting, this has been Cablelink, SMNI News.
Citizens in Burkina Faso say France's move this week to suspend aid to the country is a retaliatory measure. France is suspending development aid and budgetary assistance to Burkina Faso after the West African nation declared support for the junta that deposed Niger's President Mohamed Bazoum, CGTN's Chao Mono reports.
France's development aid to Burkina Faso is estimated at $530 million. Budget support for 2022 amounted to $14.30 million. This funding has played a major role in the country's development initiatives.
Des projets Of course, this suspension is a loss for our country because development aid has made it possible to finance projects aimed at improving the living conditions of the Burkinabe population.
The suspension has elicited reactions from residents in Ouagadougou. Many are of the opinion that this move is a wake-up call for the nation.
I think this is an opportunity for us to try a new way of working with our partners, because as Thomas Sankara said, aid that does not help us do without it is not good aid. So we have to move on and do things differently. I think that we must not only look for better partners, but also try to finance our projects ourselves.
I think suspending this aid means that we have to face up to our responsibilities. When a country is dependent on foreign aid, it is normal for it to take orders from those who are constantly helping it. Under these conditions, France will always dictate its laws to us. Our authorities must therefore seize the opportunity to work for a stable economy. That's how we will become a truly sovereign country.
Tensions have been mounting between the governments of France and Burkina Faso, along with rising anti-French sentiment among the general public. Chamgono, CGTN.
In the latest episode of the Give Us This Day program, Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy says he believes that the supply of minerals like uranium, gold, and diamonds is the reason why many countries are now meddling in Niger's coup d'etat compared to Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad. Pastor Apollo also highlighted the possibility of a war in Africa if the situation in Niger continues. Sara Santos has more on this report.
On July 26th, there was a coup d'etat in the country of Niger, and Mohamed Bazoum was removed as the democratically elected president of the country. General Abdourahmane Chiani of the Presidential Guard then elected himself as the country's new leader. This prompted the United States, France, the United Nations, and the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, to meddle in the country's affairs. To recall, other countries such as Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad had a coup d'etat ahead of the one in Niger. However, in a statement on the latest episode of Give Us This Day on Thursday, Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy believes that the abundant supply of uranium, gold, diamonds, and other mineral resources in Niger is the reason why foreign governments are paying more attention to the said country's current situation.
So, nangyari na yung mga, yung mga kudita ng Mali, kudita ng yung bansa na yun. Ganda yung pangalan eh. Burkina Faso, Mali, Burkina Faso, Chad. Puro nauna na nagkudita yan eh, hindi pinapansin. Kaya ang Niger, nagkudita. Bakit lahat nakatuon sa Niger? Sabi pa nung isang columnist nila doon, bakit? Kasi ang Niger maraming uranium, maraming gold, maraming diamonds, maraming mga minerals na pwede pang pakinabangan. In fact, ang France doon kumukuha ng uranium supply nila for their nuclear plants o kung ano-ano pa. Pero yun daw Mali, Chad at saka Burkina Faso, ubos na daw ang mineral. Kaya hindi na pinansin. Ngayon, nagkakagulo sila sa Niger because Niger has still that abundant supply of materials that they need. Yun ang narinig ko, ha? Totoo nga siguro.
It can be remembered that ECOWAS gave a 7-day deadline to reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum, something which Niger's coup leaders rejected. In response, Niger also closed their airspace. According to Pastor Apollo, there is a brewing war in Africa.
At saka ang ngayon, ang sa ECOWAS, yung sa economic cooperation between West African states, ECOWAS. Ito yung 15 nations na gustong sumalakay ngayon sa Niger para si Mr. Bazoum, yung president nilang na-depose, ay maibalik. Kaya ngayon, nagigirian na sila ngayon, binigyan sila ng taning na 7 days para i-reinstate si Mr. Bazoum as the
As the military intervention by West African leaders looms, reports have emerged that the Niger junta have threatened to kill deposed President Mohamed Bazoum if their neighboring African countries will stage a military intervention to restore his rule. Two Western officials spoke to the AP shortly before the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, said it had ordered the deployment of what it calls as an intervention force to restore Bazoum in power after its deadline expired on Sunday. The two Western officials also said that Niger coup leaders told U.S. Acting Deputy Secretary of State Victoria Nuland that they would kill Bazoum if ECOWAS uses any military force. To recall, 9 leaders from the 15 West African member countries gathered in the Nigerian capital Abuja on Thursday to discuss their steps. After the talks, ECOWAS President Omar Al-Ture said he could only reaffirm the decisions taken by the military authorities of the sub-region to deploy a force of community intervention. ECOWAS also vowed to impose more sanctions and travel bans on those preventing Bazoum's return to power. Bazoum is currently held at the presidential palace in Niamey, Niger, with his wife and son since he was ousted and arrested by junta officials on July 26. Reporting, this has been Angel Pastor, SMNI News.
Funds spent by the Sangguniang Kabataan for Basketball League and Beauty Contest must be aligned with the programs and projects related to nation building, according to the National Youth Commission. Jason Rubrico has the details.
In a press conference this Friday morning, the National Youth Commission, or NYC, questioned the Sangguniang Kabataan, or SK's, use of their funds. Most of SK's funds, according to NYC, are used up in the basketball leagues or beauty contests. Because of this, NYC Undersecretary Ronald Cardema said that they will pass a resolution regarding the proper use of the SK's funds that should be dedicated to nation building.
Magpasa kami ng resolution ngayon directing the SKs, especially the incoming SKs, na ang inyong pondo gagamitin nyo dun sa mga policies ng ating bansa for nation building.
According to Cardema, among the things SK should prioritize in their funds are disaster preparedness, barangay cleanup such as anti-vandalism program, and feeding programs for malnourished youth in their community. Meanwhile, Cardema also wants SK to focus on establishing a help desk for young victims of violence or abuse. This is after Cardema learned from Justice Secretary Boying Rimulya that more than half of the beneficiaries of their witness protection program go to children who are victims of rape.
Yung kabataang Pilipino, kapag sila ay naghahasa ng kanilang kamag-anak, saan sila tatakbo? One orientation na ipapagawa natin dito sa SK, kapag merong ganon, incestuous rape or anything na inaabuso, mga ganun boss, inaabusong kabataan, gagawa kayo ng desk dun sa barangay na kayo yung tatakbuhan.
NYC also announced that they will launch a national nation building event every month for newly elected SK officials. Cardema said such events include the National Coastal Cleanup every January and the National Anti-Vandalism Campaign every February. There are an estimated 500,000 SK leaders across the Philippines.
Mapatunayan nila na sila ang pag-asa ng bayan. Yung mga sitwasyon sa ating bansa na alam nyo sa utak nyo wala nang pag-asa yan. Bubuhayin natin yung titulo nila na pag-asa sila ng bayan. Gugulatin natin ang lipunan na naaayos pala kada buwan ng ating bansa sa pamamagitan ng Sangguniang Kabataan.
For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SMNI News.
Octa Research has released a survey showcasing possible personalities to be voted as senators in the upcoming 2025 midterm elections. Here's MJ Mondihar with the report.
From the list of personalities we have, who among them would you choose as senators in the upcoming 2025 elections? That's the question posed in the latest Tugon sa Masa survey conducted by the think tank Octa Research. In the survey, broadcaster and former social welfare chief Erwin Tulfo emerged as the top choice. 73% of respondents in the survey said that they would vote for Tulfo as a senator. He is currently a sitting lawmaker of the ACT-CAS party list. Senator Bongo follows closely in second place with a voter preference of 55%. Next, with a significant voter preference of 49%, is former Senate President Tito Soto III. Meanwhile, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa secured a 44% voter preference, placing him in the 3rd to 5th positions in the survey. Senator Amy Marcos occupies the 4th to 6th slots with a 43% voter preference. Former Senator Manny Pacquiao falls in the 5th to 10th range with a 38% voter preference. Competing for the 6th to 10th positions are Senator Pia Cayetano with a 37% preference and Senator Bong Revilla at 36%. Former Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso garnered 35%, while Senator Lito Lapid obtained 33%. Former Senator Ping Lacson and Senator Francis Tolentino both have a 26% voting preference, placing them in the 11 to 15 slots. Several personalities were also mentioned in the survey, including former Vice President Leni Robredo and SMNI anchorman and former presidential spokesman Attorney Harry Roque. TV host Willie Revillame also secured voter preference. The survey also includes Congressman Richard Gomez, former DILG Secretary Mar Rojas, former PNP Chief Guillermo Eleazar, former Congressman Mike Defensor, and Cebu Governor Gwen Garcia. The list also features Sagip Representative Dordante Marcoleta, Valenzuela Representative Eric Martinez, Batangas Governor Dodo Mandanas, and other personalities. For Government of Philippines, MJ Mondihar, SMNI News.
An unprecedented surge in suicide rates shook the United States as the numbers reached an all-time high in 2022. Carla De La Peña reports.
The United States is grappling with a deeply troubling crisis as suicide rates hit an unprecedented high, according to a recent report by the Centers for Disease Control, or CDC. The data, released on August 10, reveals a grim reality, demanding immediate action to counter this tragic trend. In 2022, a staggering 49,449 Americans took their own lives, representing a 2.6% increase from the previous year's 48,183. This surge in suicide cuts across age groups in the U.S., with adults aged 65 and above experiencing an alarming 8.1% rise. The CDC also saw a 6.6% increase among individuals aged 45 to 64. The report also highlights gender disparities, with both men and women facing higher suicide rates, an increase of 2.3% among men and 2.8% among women. The crisis has affected various racial and ethnic groups, except for Indian Americans and Alaska Native people. Distinct spikes in suicide rates are evident among specific communities, with the largest increase among Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islanders, showing a 15.9% rise. Meanwhile, Americans identifying as multiracial also experienced a significant uptick. While suicides have been rising since 2006, barring 2019 and 2020, the report emphasizes the urgency for immediate intervention. Dr. Deborah Howry, CDC's Chief Medical Officer, underscores the need for swift action to prevent preventable tragedies. U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra reinforces the gravity of the situation, stressing that one life lost to suicide is too many. He highlights the importance of challenging the stigma around seeking help for mental health issues. Reporting, this has been Carlo De La Peña, SMNI News.
Turkey is expecting investment to start flowing from the UAE before the end of the year after both countries signed a major deal last month. Gratero Omori reports.
Ankara awaits for results after finalizing billions of dollars worth of investments with the UAE last month.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan visited Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE in mid-July as part of efforts to boost foreign investments. While in Jeddah, several contracts were signed, including a drone to which Turkish defense company Baykar said was the largest in the history of Turkey. Qatar, on the other hand, reaffirmed 50 years of strong diplomatic ties with Turkey and acknowledged the signing of nearly 100 documents since 2015, aimed at strengthening their bilateral relations. Meanwhile, his visit to the UAE resulted in the signing of 13 agreements worth $50.7 billion.
Both sides have also reached an agreement to establish a high-level strategic council to be chaired by the presidents of Turkey and the UAE. The Turkish leader also presented new electric cars for the Crown Prince of Saudi, the Emir of Qatar, and the President of the UAE as a gift. Erdogan shifts his focus on the oil-rich Gulf region as two-way trade between Turkey and Gulf countries increased significantly from $1.6 billion to about $22 billion over the past 20 years. Reporting from Dubai, this has been Gratero Omori, SMNI News, United Arab Emirates.
Negotiations are underway to release American prisoners jailed in Iran in exchange of access to billions of dollars in Iranian assets blocked under U.S. sanctions. Melchizedek Cadiz reports.
Several Americans detained in the notorious Evin prison in Tehran have been removed from their cells and transferred to house arrest until an ongoing prisoner swap deal between the U.S. and Iran pushes through. Under the deal, the 5 Americans imprisoned in Iran will be freed in exchange for a handful of Iranian prisoners. If the negotiations turn successful, Washington must release roughly $6 billion in Iranian government assets stored in South Korea and Iraq that were blocked under U.S. sanctions. The blocked funds will be used to buy food, medicine, and other humanitarian aid. Tehran previously said it is open to prisoner exchange talks with Washington out of respect for humanitarian issues, despite having no diplomatic relations with the U.S. The prisoner swap is taking place amid heightened tensions over U.S. military buildup in the Gulf region. Reporting, this has been Melchizedek Cadiz, SMNI News, Kuwait.
Death toll from the devastating wildfires in the Hawaiian island of Maui has increased further as locals describe the tragedy as apocalyptic and made the town looking like a war zone. Gina Salam is back for more news.
What was once a famous tourist island bustling with activities days ago transformed into a scene of widespread devastation after a raging inferno burning for days reduced Maui into ashes.
Oh my gosh, look at the harbor. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
The wildfires, allegedly fueled by distant hurricanes, exploded on Tuesday night. Death toll rose to 53 as of Thursday evening, while the blazes destroyed more than 1,700 structures in the town of 12,000 people. Areas where popular destination spots and landmarks once stood were replaced with foundations charred beyond recognition. 6 fires are burning on Maui and the Big Island, while officials battling the blazes said the Lahaina fire is now 80% contained. Officials deployed cadaver dogs to help search for human remains. Hawaii Governor Josh Green said death toll is expected to rise as search and rescue operations continue. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden declared that a major disaster exists in the state of Hawaii and ordered federal aid to areas affected by the wildfires, which took effect on August 8. Officials said the wildfires are likely to become the state's deadliest natural disaster since 1961, when a tsunami killed 61 people on the Big Island. Reporting from New South Wales, this is Sheena Salim, SMNI News, Australia.
South Korea's president ordered his government to provide swift and sufficient aid to people hit by Typhoon Kanon. Chris Jong reports.
In a written briefing, Lee Do-won said the President Yoon instructed Interior Minister Lee Sang-min after receiving information about the damage. President Yoon ordered his administration to provide swift and sufficient support to people who suffered from the onslaught, as well to ensure thorough support for the victims of Typhoon Kanon. The typhoon destroyed facilities and caused floods, landslides, closure of schools, and disruption of transportation. Fortunately, no casualties were reported. Yun credited the preparation done by the government, saying that through early preparations such as the evacuation of 15,000 people and closing of around 2,400 underground roads and facilities brought the casualties down to a minimum. The South Korean president also gave appreciation to the efforts of everyone involved in the evacuation, giving credit to the Interior Ministry, the police, firefighters, and local government workers, as well to the local resident actively cooperating. According to the weather agency, Typhoon Cannon made its landfall in the South Korea southeastern coast Thursday morning and crept up slowly north for 16 hours and dissipated after reaching the vicinity of North Korea's capital, Pyongyang. Solely Subogo, Christian Unida, SMNI News, South Korea.
Dozens more people died in a matter of days after floods and landslide hit several districts in Bangladesh. Chatmonkon Pisamay Goson reports.
Death toll from monsoon rains and subsequent flooding in southeast Bangladesh rose to 48 since Saturday, while the rising floodwaters had affected at least 1.2 million people in 4 southeastern districts. Officials launched relief efforts in flood-ravaged areas, which continued non-stop in the last 4 days. At this point, people need potable water and urgent relief assistance. The floods have affected 480,000 people in the Cox's Bazar district, an area now known as the world's largest refugee camp. At least 3,700 homes were destroyed from the raging floods. The International Rescue Committee called for an urgent need for long-term solutions to address the vulnerability of Rohingya refugee camps in Cox's Bazar. The monsoon rains between June and September affects hundreds of thousands of people in Bangladesh every year. รายงานจากราชบุรีนายชัดมงคลพิสมัยโกศล SMNI News ประเทศไทย สวัสดีครับ
17 people died while dozens more went missing after a boat transporting Rohingya refugees capsized in the waters of Myanmar earlier this week. Anissa de Guzman has the details.
Every year, thousands of Rohingya refugees risk their lives in making perilous sea journeys from camps in Bangladesh and Myanmar to reach Muslim countries like Malaysia and Indonesia. This year was not an exception, as a desperation to find a better life somewhere pushed them to face the unknown dangers at sea. A boat transporting around 58 refugees were on their way from Myanmar's Rakhine state to Malaysia when the boat capsized due to bad weather in the Bay of Bengal. 17 people died from the tragedy, while rescuers only found 8 survivors. Dozens more remain unaccounted for. The Rohingya people are a stateless Indo-Aryan ethnic group who predominantly follow Islam and reside in Rakhine State, Myanmar, wherein around 600,000 of them remain to live there. In 2017, a military crackdown forced 750,000 of them to seek refuge in Bangladesh camps. Human rights watchers describe them as one of the most persecuted minorities in the world, with restricted freedom of movement and limited access to state education and civil service jobs. According to United Nations, 2022 was among the deadliest years for Rohingyas, wherein more than 3,500 desperate refugees risked their lives in deadly sea crossings. Di siya na Anissa de Guzman, Drangan Chakuntep Mahanapon, SMNI News, Pratathay, Sawadika.
The first time that Putin and Zelenskyy met and sat at a negotiation table was in 2019. At that time, both leaders sought to end the war in their border region. But now that the conflict continues to escalate, and as the world attempts to seek a peaceful solution, would both parties agree to meet again? Face to face, Ukraine's foreign minister has the answer. Let's find out more with Jean Domingo.
If and when Ukraine decides to talk with Russia, it will still not happen with Russian President Vladimir Putin. This is what Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said in an Italian media interview on Thursday. According to Kuleba, Putin has committed serious crimes and said, I quote, "It is clear to us that we will never be able to see Putin and Zelenskyy sitting at the same table. We can negotiate with Russia after the withdrawal of their troops from our territories, but not with Putin. End of quote. When asked if this would mean further escalation in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the foreign minister said that the worst has already happened and that nothing surprises them anymore. But Kuleba said Ukrainian counteroffensive will soon give Kyiv victories and that they will continue to fight because they have no other options left. Kuleba also thanked Italy for providing weapons and supplies to Ukraine, but said that nothing would be enough until Kyiv won this war. He also called for more ammunition, artillery, and anti-aircraft systems. It can be remembered that Zelenskyy banned any form of negotiation between Ukraine and Putin in October 2022. And in November, Zelenskyy introduced a peace platform demanding unconditional withdrawal of Russian troops from territories claimed by Ukraine, including the Russian annexed Crimea. But Russia rejected the proposal, saying that Ukraine's recognition of reality is a prerequisite for any peace talks. Putin, on the other hand, has said that he is still open to any negotiations. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Jean Domingo, SMNI News.
In an exciting development, China has announced a remarkable expansion of its list of group tour destinations, now encompassing a staggering 78 countries. This ambitious move is expected to provide an extraordinary array of choices for both domestic and international tourists, promising unforgettable experiences and cultural changes on a global scale. CGTN's Sun Chan-Yun has the details.
China's Ministry of Culture and Tourism has announced on Thursday the resumption of group tours to 78 overseas destinations. The list includes popular destinations for Chinese travelers such as Japan, Australia, the UK, and the US. The ministry had previously resumed such tours to 60 countries as part of a trial program since February, following a 3-year halt due to the pandemic. Travel agencies and service providers in China have reportedly seen a surge in outbound travel inquiries and searches for hotel accommodations abroad, and following the announcement, so particularly for the week-long National Day holiday in October. Data from China's National Bureau of Statistics shows that the country had the world's largest outbound tourism market in 2019, with 169 million trips made that year. The market has been recovering rapidly this year, with international passenger flights continuing to resume and more people ready to travel abroad. In the first half of this year alone, tourists from the Chinese mainland have made over 40 million trips overseas. 94% of them visited Asian destinations such as Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Hong Kong and Macau were the most popular travel destinations during the first half of this year. This announcement has also boosted confidence in the stock market. Shares of tour agencies, hotels, and airlines, especially in Asia, saw gains following Thursday's announcement. Meanwhile, Thailand is easing its visa application process for Chinese travelers by reducing approval time and required documents. In 2019, Chinese tourists made up the Southeast Asian country's largest source of visitors. Sun Tianyuan, CGTN, Beijing.
In a move that carries the potential for unforeseen consequences, the latest investment restrictions imposed by the United States on semiconductor chips have ignited discussions about a potential boomerang effect on the nation's own industries. As the U.S. tightens its grip on chip-related investments, experts warn of a double-edged sword that could inherently hinder domestic technological advancement and disrupt global supply chains. The delicate balance between safeguarding national interest and stimulating innovation now takes center stage, prompting stakeholders to carefully assess the far-reaching implications of these restrictions. Let's know more about this with CGTN's Michael Wang and independent political and economic affairs commentator Einar Tangen.
And I want to dig deeper now into what this latest U.S. restriction on China means for U.S. chip makers and the global economy at large, and bring in Einar Tangen, independent political and economic affairs commentator. Einar, thanks for joining us. So we heard already from U.S. semiconductor companies repeatedly. They've argued for Washington to be careful when considering export restrictions on China, because revenues from the China market support chip investments over in the U.S. and funds the R&D of U.S. chip makers. So how do you see this latest investment restriction move and its potential impact on the long-term competitiveness of the U.S. chip industry?
Well, quite frankly, this is just shooting yourself in the foot, Michael. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Let's look at dumb it down a little bit. 50% of the chip design is done in the U.S. If you look at the number of companies, et cetera, about 75% of all chip production is done in Japan, China, and South Korea. And then, as well as Taiwan. And then you have China that has up to 80% of the materials necessary to make those chips. So this is a good example of globalization. Everybody was benefiting from that for years, both the United States and China, from the specialization. It brought down the cost of these. Now what you're going to do is the U.S. is pushing itself out of a market that is the largest in the world. I mean, the Chinese semiconductor market is 1/3 of the entire world's market. So how do you walk away from that and still grow?
Right. So, Einar, how should U.S. companies respond here in the China market then? Because like you mentioned, China is the world's largest chip market by sales and the largest market for U.S. chip makers. So what will this move, you think, mean for U.S. chip companies still wanting to compete in the China market, where in terms of revenues, they still make billions of dollars each year?
Well, when I say it's going to backfire. A lot of these companies have no choice. They can't walk away from this huge market. So what they're going to do is they're going to move their headquarters out of the United States, and then they're going to put their IP into a third-party country like the Virgin Islands, and then they're going to lease it out to both sides, so that they can claim that they're obeying all of the restrictions that are out there. But they're going to lose the economies of scale. If they have to set up 2 factories to service 2 different markets, it's not going to make things cheaper. It's just more expensive.
Right. And of course, we have high interest rates right now, a lot of economic uncertainty and inflation. So what does that mean for chip prices in the future? I guess that is also a wait and see. Einar, the CFO of AI chip leader NVIDIA, recently said that over the long term, restrictions prohibiting the sale of NVIDIA's AI chips to China will result in what she calls perhaps a permanent loss of opportunities for the U.S. industry to compete in one of the world's largest semiconductor markets. Do you agree with that assessment?
Oh, absolutely, Michael. There's no question about it. As I said, it's 1/3 of the global market in total. And they don't want to walk away from it, especially when they are now in a position where they can seriously challenge so many other chip makers who used to leave them in the dust. Now they have these AI chips, and they want to sell them. They've made a huge investments. They walk away from it. Their research and development budgets are going to be slashed, and so is the price of their products is going to go up because they can't get it. There are still a lot of gray market areas where, yes, there will be some moving back and forth, but the fact is this is not good for business. It's not good for anybody, and it certainly will not address the security concerns. If there's any security concerns, I mean, Mike, let's be frank. U.S. spends $90 billion a year. That's $6 billion more than the entire Russian army spends just on gathering information and spying and disinformation. It's always interesting to me that the U.S. is accusing China of doing exactly what it does.
Einar, so in this already uncertain world, how do you see these export and investment restrictions impacting global supply chains? Let's say impacting the ability of the international community to really scale green technologies to combat climate change, which is an existential common challenge to all of us. And we need these chips to really scale up green technologies, as well as the impact on global growth and development.
Well, quite frankly, I mean, the real question is, what is the West going to do about solar things? They're already starting in Europe to put tariffs on solar Chinese solar panels because they're dumping them. Well, if they're dumping them, it's to the advantage of Europe, which needs cheap solar cells in order to, create the energy they need to replace the gas they gave up when the whole Ukraine situation took place. So, at this point, China is going to go ahead. They have workarounds. They already have larger chips. You don't need microchips. These ultra small 3-nanometer chips to run the processor on a solar cell. So China will go ahead. I mean, 16% of the chips in the world are now made in China, and you're going to see that number rapidly rise. And as that does, there's no going back. It's not like the U.S. can say, oh, wait a second, we made a mistake. We want to hop into that market. It's going to be gone.
Right. And Einar, I'm wondering, so as a U.S. semiconductor company, which are, I would say, some of the most competitive in the world, how do you plan and invest for the future given such uncertainties? And I ask because I'm thinking of an election year for the U.S. next year. And if a new administration comes in 2025, we could see, who knows, perhaps even harsher policies when it comes to export and investment restrictions. So as a leading U.S. chip company, how do you plan and invest around that?
Well, that's the whole point. They might decide to take their headquarters and become an Irish company, and then put their IP in some other part, and then just simply lease it out to both sides. That's the only way you can stay in both markets without drawing the ire or sanctions from the United States.
All right, we're going to
remember. It's not China who's doing this. It's China's not putting tariffs so far on any of these things. It's not China's actions, just the U.S. right now.
All right, Einar, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks for your thoughts and perspectives on all of this. Einar Tangen, political and economic affairs commentator. Thank you.
The BS Psychology students of Jose Maria College Foundation Incorporated obtained a 100% passing rate in the recent 2023 psychometricians licensure examination. Because of this, scholars who pass extend their immense gratitude to Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, the founder of the school, for the privilege he provided that led to their success. Kyle Pellerin tells us more.
Recent passers of the 2023 board licensure exam for psychologists and psychometricians from the Jose Maria College Foundation Incorporated expressed their gratitude to the school and its founding president, Reverend Dr. Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, as they share their journey. With its commitment to assured, consistent, and quality education, JMCFI achieved 100% passing rate in the BLEPP, producing 8 new psychometricians, namely Hannah Joy E. Bedico, RPM, Juvie O. Belleza, RPM, Rose Kate C. Bermejo, RPM, Jadel May E. Cal, RPM, Maria Divine G. Diolas, RPM, Donna May I. Habacon, RPM, Austin Blue D. Magzay, RPM, and Faith V. Momo, RPM.
So pagsabi ko lang ng 100%, I was really happy because I'm not really like praying just for myself, but I also prayed for my classmates. I prayed that all of us will see our names in the list of board passers, and I was really grateful and happy that it was 100%.
Appreciate kayo as in, syempre ka ng all your effort na parang nagbunga din siya na hindi mo masaktan ang feeling na sobrang ka-happy o thankful kay Lord na niyatag niya sa kuha in just one day.
Of course, I was so happy and ecstatic. I was like jumping up and down and like crying. So yeah, filled with so much happiness because my hard work finally paid off through all those months of studying and grinding just to be sure that I will pass. And then when I passed, it's finally like a big relief.
Actually, itong pagkakita na ko sa akong name sa pastors kay nagilak na ako in the middle of the class dude kaya at that time kay nag-class ako sa law school and then so tungod siguro sa kanang grabe na dyan kay emotion nakanto kong si kaya nandun ako makunti lang akong happiness.
Moreover, the new psychometricians look back on their journey from students to professionals, and how JMCFI was instrumental in helping them achieve their dreams.
The best thing that Jose Maria College has taught me is to pursue excellence in everything that you do. You do not settle for best or better, but you settle for excellence, and that is what Pastor Apollo Sikiboy has really honed us to become. For us to become excellent, so that in our journey to become professionals, we would also use the values and everything that they have given to us, and so that we can become, useful in the community and productive. So.
As a student, I enroll year 27 akong edad, makaingon jugod. Last 2017, big kayo na ako na decision na mabalik to school because 27 years old, yung first year pa ka, very challenging, and taas kayo akong adjustment. Ang kalainan mo sa GMC is na dili lang yun na gina-promote nila ang excellence, dili lang nila, kundi pati values. Values as a student, pag-uman mo diri, pagawas ni mo diri sa person, mo na siya naka-set apart. Daluna ni mo siya na values na ginatudlo.
My best experience as a JMarian is really the camaraderie of the students and also the teachers. Like, they really treat us like family, and also with the academic stuff, they really excel in teaching. Like, I didn't experience one single teacher who was slacking off with teaching, and yeah, they were really good with us, and I was so happy to be a student here.
Akong best experience niya sa GMC kay ang katong pag-run nako as an organization officer sa among org, kay by that parang murag na showcase nako sa ilahan, napakita nako sa ilahan kung unsa ko as a student and as a leader for the lower years. And
one of the best experience was being one of the organization's officers, because it also helped us students prepare for the life outside school. And aside from that is that the activities, intrams, mga ganyan, kasi minsan lang kasi yan eh.
Among the passers, one of them is a gift of education full-time scholar of the founding president, Pastor Apollo Sikiboy.
It is a one-of-a-kind experience kay dili magkutanan mataga naging ani nga privilege nga mahimong scholar, as in like kanang full gani ang kuan, like kanang wala kay bayad ba sa tuition nimo, at the same time pud supported pud ka sa imong mga needs sa school and everything para mapanginahanglanon nimo. So gratefulness akong nabati gyud ever since. That's why as a student, as a scholar di pastor, nagapaningkamot pud ko nga gusto pud nako mabalik nako mabalik nako na kay pastor ta nagibod niya sa ako pinaagi sa pagtarong nako sa akong pag-eskwela sa.
Meanwhile, the new psychometricians expressed their gratefulness to the school, especially to its founding president, Pastor Apollo Sikiboy, for his unwavering commitment to excellence and for molding them to become the professionals that they are today.
First of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to our founding president, Pastor Apollo Sikiboy, and to Jose Maria College for your invaluable contributions, not only to our growth and development, but for providing us the impressive facilities and also a supportive environment where we can really hone our skills, our capabilities, for without you, we would not become the persons who we are today.
Pastor, thank you very much sa iyang pag-help sa amo na i-mold niya as kami karon, and nagta padayon lang niya iyahang maayong paghatag labaw na sa edukasyon na iyahang gina-focus, padayon niya ang pag-support sa mga student na labaw na mas na niya.
To Pastor and sa GMC, thank you masyado kasi ginawa mo ang GMC, which is naging stepping stones namin to reach our dreams and to reach success in life.
Magpasalamat jud ko kay Pastor sa pagbuhat niya ni nga school, and then grabe jud kay ang support ni Pastor, ma-feel jud na ako, and then appeal pud ang JMCFI faculty and staff sa ilang paghatag sa support sa tanan-tanan. Thank you kaayo kay kung wala inyong support syempre wala pud mi.
So my message to the school, generally to the students, is that we need to uphold JMC's value of excellence, and also to the founding president, I really thank Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy for promoting that and for maintaining that throughout the years.
Thank you for giving JMC a chance na makahatag og mga education to less fortunate people, because that's also one of his advocacies.
Pastor, salamat siya kay Pastor kay gimugna ni mong JMC, and salamat kayo for all the values na imong impart, i-share sa amua, mga values na dili lang namo magamit while naami sa JMC, kundi magamit yun namo sa all throughout sa among life.
To Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, Pastor, daghang kayong salamat, Pastor, for the gift of education, and most of all, Pastor, salamat sa spiritual values nga mo gi-inculcate sa matag usa ka namo through SMNI College and through your preaching mismo, Pastor. Thank you so much, Pastor, for everything. Dili gyud mapailuhan sa bisag unsa nga butang, or sa pasalamat naman ng imong pagkamaayo sa matag usa ka namo. But thank you so much, Pastor, kay wala ka di tanaw kung unsa mi sa una, but imog yung gitanaw kung wala ka ni base kung asa mi gikan nga background, asa mi gikan nga lupalop ning kalibutan, but imo jud, Pastor, is kanang imong gitanaw amo ang kumaga future, Pastor, amuhang kinabukasan kung unsa mi if ever, Pastor, nga matarong among kinabuhi. Nga kayo salamat, Pastor.
Pastor Apollo also expressed his happiness in seeing the result of the 2023 psychometrician's licensure examination, because it reflects his desire to give quality education to the youth. Indeed, GEMS-FI will continue to soar high, whether in sports or academics, bannering the culture of excellence that the founding president, Reverend Dr. Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, has instilled in every J-Marian. For God and my beloved Philippines, this is Kyle Pellerin reporting for SMNI News.
And before we end, may be inspired with the message of the appointed Son of God. Even to the detriment of life, I will lay down my life for His words. And that's all for today's edition of Newsline World. For more news update, you may visit SMNINewsChannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. For God and for my beloved country, the Philippines, I am Franco Baranda. Thank you for watching Newsline World. And thank you to our beloved pastor, Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, for the opportunity to be part of this program. May you continue to listen on SMNI as it delivers nothing but fair, truthful, and balanced news, because SMNI is your source of